Exposed, flight attendant's shocking reaction when a black woman revealed she owned the plane. Jada stepped into the bustling Atlanta airport, her heart racing as the familiar buzz of travelers enveloped her. The vibrant energy filled her with an undeniable hope. She was finally here, about to surprise her daughter Mia at the long-awaited family reunion. A stylish yet practical bag slung over her shoulder held all her essentials and a lifetime's worth of dreams. Today would prove that hard work truly pays off, but as she approached the check-in desk, the smiles around her faded into scrutinizing glares from the predominantly white staff. It started with a flight attendant's sharp question, "Is this your first flight?" It cut through her excitement, leaving her heart heavy. Memories of judgment clouded her mind, those quick looks of disdain, the doubts that lingered in the air. Did they see a woman who worked tirelessly, battling through prejudice? Or just another statistic? Through the cabin, Jada walked gingerly toward her seat, feeling the weight of their gazes prickling at her skin. Conversation ceased, whispers exchanged like currency, the atmosphere thickening with an unspoken resentment. She felt small as her chest tightened, battling the urge to look up and defend her accomplishments. She had built something extraordinary from nothing, and yet she faced the roller coaster forces of doubt and disdain. It was a moment of reckoning. She was torn between silence and the fiery impulse to break free from the shackles of their assumptions. Just as she settled into her seat, there was a commotion. An error on the flight's system suddenly exposed her credentials. Muffled gasps rippled through the cabin as realization hit. Who was she? A powerful entrepreneur who owned a small fleet of planes, hardly what anyone expected. The flight crew's faces drained of color, shock replacing their earlier skepticism. Conversations ignited, and whispers of admiration replaced doubt. With calm determination, Jada stood, addressing the entire cabin. "I'm here for my daughter, but let us talk about respect, about the American dream," she said, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. "Hard work is for all of us, no matter where we started. We each carry our stories." In those moments, vulnerability met strength, hearts began to soften, the walls of ignorance began to crumble. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the plane jolted closer to its destination, the energy shifted. It was a profound moment of collective reflection, walls breaking down, emotional confrontations rising from the depths of discomfort. Apologies spilled forth, some became tears, others uncertainty, but the air pulsed with new understanding, minds were opening. But just as connection bloomed, a fire flared up. An unexpected twist brought something deeper to the surface, leaving all aboard teetering on the brink of change. As the wheels of the plane touched down, uncertainty loomed. Would Jada emerge as a beacon of transformation, or would she find herself trapped once more in silence? A moment of hope hung in the air, leaving the audience breathless, hearts racing, the taut strings of potential yet unfulfilled. Jada's mind raced as the plane rolled to a stop at the gate. She could feel the palpable tension shift from discomfort to a strange new anticipation. The moment she had longed for was finally here, but the journey wasn't over yet. With her heart thumping against her ribcage, she took a deep breath, prepared to face whatever reception awaited her upon disembarking. The cabin doors opened with a hiss, cool air flooding the space. Jada's hand trembled slightly as she reached for her bag, focusing on the familiar face she longed to see. Mia's bright smile, the wonderful little girl she had worked so hard for, danced vividly in her mind. The overwhelming need for a hug, for the warmth of her daughter, pushed her forward. As passengers filed out, Jada stood still for a moment, watching. The flight crew appeared flustered yet oddly reverent. They whispered among themselves, their earlier facades of superiority now replaced by a curious respect. Jada caught snippets of conversations. "Did you hear her story? Incredible, isn't it? The words floated like colorful balloons, drifting into her realization that she had sparked something warm within their hearts. Finally, she stepped into the jet bridge, and the sound of her heels echoed softly as if urging her on. Just as she reached the terminal, her eyes scanned the crowd for Mia. A wave of warmth washed over her as she caught sight of her daughter, bouncing on her toes with excitement, radiant in her innocence. Mia's arms spread wide, and before Jada could move, her daughter launched into her embrace, burying her head into Jada's shoulder. "Mom! You made it!" Mia exclaimed, the joy in her voice so pure it melted all the doubts that lingered from the flight. Jada enveloped her, inhaling the familiar scent of shampoo and sunshine, feeling the weight of the world lift off her shoulders. "I wouldn't miss it for anything in the world," Jada replied, her voice thick with emotion as she pulled back to look at her daughter. Mia's face glowed with awe, and in that moment, Jada knew they were on the brink of something beautiful, but just as they began to walk hand in hand, a voice broke through the crowd. A man, tall and assertive, approached them with determination. "Excuse me," he said, urgency lacing his tone. Jada recognized him as the flight attendant who had questioned her earlier. "I just wanted to say I should have never assumed. You opened my eyes today." His honesty hung in the air, a stark contrast to the earlier judgment she had faced. Jada felt a flicker of hope swelling in her chest. People were willing to change. They were ready to face the truth, even when it was uncomfortable. This man, the same one who had treated her with disdain, was now willing to confront his own prejudices. The world around them began to blur into the background as Jada exchanged a look with Mia. They were standing on the precipice of a newfound understanding that would ripple far beyond this airport and this moment. Yet, as the flight attendant turned to leave, he paused, casting one last glance over his shoulder. "And this isn't just about the flight, there's a lot more happening now. It's bigger." Jada's heart raced again, anxiety dancing at the edges of her consciousness. What lay ahead? What bigger truths awaited her in a world filled with shifting perspectives? With Mia at her side, ready to embrace whatever came next, Jada took a step forward into the unknown and all its promise. What did this all mean for their future? The air was thick with possibility, a question of transformation hanging softly between them. What awaited her just beyond the horizon? Jada's steps were light, infused with a strange blend of eagerness and trepidation. Mia looked up at her, eyes sparkling with the kind of innocence that made hope feel tangible. As they navigated through the thrumming terminal, Jada's mind buzzed with possibilities. The flight attendant's words lingered in her thoughts, swirling with the bittersweet reality of the past few years. "Mom, can we get ice cream?" Mia's voice broke through her thoughts, a bright call for normalcy, the anchor they both needed. "Absolutely. But first, let us get our bags," Jada replied, squeezing her daughter's hand. Her heart swelled at Mia's enthusiasm. They made their way to the baggage claim, the crowd a vivid tableau of life. Families reunited, laughter rippling through the air, punctuated by the soft beeps of arriving luggage. Jada couldn't help but smile as she picked up little snippets of conversations, everyone buzzing with stories of their own. As she waited for their suitcase, Jada stole glances around, trying to absorb the atmosphere. A warmth filled her chest, conquering the remnants of anxiety. But as the baggage carousel began to move, she felt the familiar knot of uncertainty tighten in her gut. The flight attendant's sudden kindness felt like a beacon, but what if it faded? Their bag appeared, suddenly visible under the bright lights. Jada grabbed it, hoisting it upwards with a small grunt. As they headed toward the exit, a thought struck her: was it possible to change more than one heart today? "Mom, there's a lady by the window." Mia tugged on her hand, half dragging Jada toward the exit. The sunlight poured in, illuminating a woman standing alone, her gaze fixed on them. She was older, with deep-set eyes that held 1,000 stories. "Mia!" she called, and Jada recognized the voice. Michelle, her old friend from high school. Surprised emotions flooded through Jada. It had been years since they had last seen one another. "Michelle!" Jada responded, her heart fluttering. The woman enveloped Mia in an embrace that was secure and warm before stepping back to meet Jada's eyes. "I heard you were coming back. I wanted to be here when you landed," Michelle beamed, her face filled with genuine joy. "I can't believe it. How are you? We have so much to catch up on," Jada exclaimed, longing to bridge the gap time had carved between them. As they chatted, Jada noticed how the surrounding people began to lean into their reunion. A few younger women, engrossed in their phones, glanced over occasionally. There was an urge to belong, to be part of something special. "Jada, you have to tell me everything. We've missed you." "I can't believe how brave you've been," Michelle said. "With everything going on." Jada felt herself blush. "I'm just trying to be the best mom I can be," she replied softly, glancing down at Mia, whose eyes twinkled with the promise of growing friendship. Just then, a sudden shout erupted from across the terminal. Jada turned sharply, her heart racing again. A group of young men were laughing loudly, their joy filling the air like sparkling confetti. But one of them caught her eye. He pointed directly at her, a serious expression darkening his face. "Hey, look! You don't belong here!" he shouted, his words echoing around them. The laughter dimmed, and stunned expressions formed. Jada froze, her breath caught in her throat. A sense of dread washed over her, squeezing her heart. "Mom!" Mia's voice trembled beside her. Jada quickly knelt to meet her daughter's eyes, forcing a smile despite the thunder rattling in her chest. "It's okay, sweetheart. Just ignore them," she said with a steadiness she didn't quite feel, but words failed her as she felt the weight of prejudice creeping closer, choking the warmth of that airport reunion. How could she protect Mia from this? Determined, Jada stood tall. "I am exactly where I belong," she called back, her voice unintentionally strong. More eyes turned toward the commotion, and she noticed a ripple of recognition among some of the onlookers. And then, one by one, people stepped forward. They began to speak. "We stand with her." Jada's heart soared. She had just begun to understand the power of uniting in the face of adversity. This moment was transforming into something bigger than she ever imagined. What had started as a challenging day was morphing into a fight they would all take on together. As she looked out at the gathering crowd, she felt the shield of hope. But just as her spirit dared to rise, she noticed another figure moving in the background, someone she recognized. Their intentions were unclear. Could this be the beginning of something profound, or would it lead to more unexpected trials? Jada's heart raced again at the thought. What awaited her within this storm of change? Jada felt a jolt of confusion ripple through her as she locked eyes with the figure at the edge of the crowd. It was Claire, an old acquaintance from high school, her presence triggering a swirl of memories both good and painful. Claire's expression was unreadable, caught in a mix of surprise and uncertainty. As the crowd began to murmur in unity, Jada's resolve flickered. This was supposed to be a moment of celebration, a reunion filled with joy. But then, all the chatter about solidarity felt as fragile as a bubble. Would Claire's opinion still matter? Could she stand by Jada now, or would she retreat into the shadows of their past? "Mom, what is happening?" Mia whispered, her small fingers curling tighter around Jada's hand. The innocence in her voice cut through the noise, reminding Jada of the protection she desperately wanted to provide. Trying to maintain her composure, Jada turned her full attention to the crowd. "It's okay, sweetheart," she replied, but the weight of the moment pushed down on her chest. The world felt like it was shifting, and her pulse quickened as Claire stepped closer, hesitating only for a fraction of a second. "Come on, Claire. If you want to say something, why not say it?" a young woman shouted, emboldened by the momentum of the gathering. Her friends echoed sentiments of support. Jada could see Claire torn between her past associations and the fervor surrounding them. "Honestly," Claire started, her voice calm but hesitant. "This isn't what I expected." Her words hung in the air, heavy with implications. Jada held her breath, not knowing if this would be a moment of reckoning or a swift retreat. You never know how strong you are until you face adversity, Jada interjected, her voice louder now, almost a rallying cry. We're all in this together. Beneath our differences, we share the same foundation of humanity. It always starts with one heart. The words flowed from her, not from a rehearsed script, but from the depths of her experience. A man in the crowd shouted back, then let us show them what belonging looks like. The ambiguity in Claire's expression deepened. Jada, I'm just. She hesitated again. Just what? Afraid? Jada finished, surprising even herself with the edge in her tone. Would she let fear hold back this moment of truth? Mia's worried eyes bore into her, and Jada took a breath, willing herself to soften. Claire, I get it. Change is scary. But we can build bridges, not walls. Jada's heart beat harder as she spoke. Could she truly convince her old classmate to step forward? Suddenly, Claire's expression shifted, as if breaking free from an invisible chain. She stepped toward Jada slowly, the crowd quieting as if they were holding their breath. I've watched you go through so much, Claire began, her voice barely a whisper. And I'm sorry for not being there when it mattered. You deserve to stand tall. We all do. And just like that, the moment shifted from fear to unity, as another voice rang out, let us make a stand together. More people joined in. Claire raised her chin, finding her voice, and Jada could feel the energy swirl like a flame being fueled. Jada held her breath, riding the wave, unsure of what would come next but feeling the surge of possibility. One heart could indeed lead to many, but how far could that light reach? All she could do was stay grounded in the moment, and trust that together they could change everything. With laughter and shouts vibrating through the air, she stood firm, the light of hope igniting a fire within her. Yet, just as everything gained shape, she caught a flash of something sinister lurking in the distance, a flicker in the eyes of the man who had shouted at her earlier. What did this mean for them? Would they all stand together, or would opposition rise again? As the crowd surged with energy, the question hung in the air, threatening to eclipse the celebration they had begun. What was coming next? The energy in the crowd was electric, but the gravitational pull of uncertainty weighed heavily on Jada's heart. She glanced at Claire, who stood at the center of the whirlwind, a flicker of determination igniting in her once doubtful eyes. The shift was palpable, vulnerability was transforming into strength. Together. Someone shouted again. Together. The crowd echoed, the chorus growing louder, infectious in its enthusiasm. But even as the words bounced off the walls of the gathering space, a dark shadow lingered in Jada's mind. The man with the hostile glare, with each passing moment, that flicker in his eyes became a nagging chill in Jada's spine. Uncertainty coiled tighter, the exhilaration of the crowd already starting to feel overwhelming. She squeezed Mia's hand, steadying herself. Stay close, okay? She whispered, desperately hoping to quell the fear pulsing through her, but just as she found a moment of clarity, that man stepped forward, breaking through the joyous energy like a cloud overtaking the sun. His presence commanded attention, the cheer around them waning into uneasy whispers. Let us not kid ourselves, he yelled, his voice cutting harsh against the buzz of support. This isn't about unity or belonging. Who really believes that one person's heart can change the world? A wave of tension rippled through the crowd, and Jada felt her breath quicken. Was he just a dissonant note in their symphony of solidarity, or something more menacing? Get out of here with that negativity. Someone shouted back, the anger in their voice giving Jada a semblance of reassurance. Yet, the man merely smiled, twisting his lips in an unsettling way, like a predator toying with dinner. Let us be real, he continued, his eyes scanning the crowd, locking onto Claire. You think it's enough for one of you to believe? You think the past can be forgotten just because you're willing to stand with this woman? Jada's heart sank. Would Claire crumble under scrutiny as she had in the past? Would the fragile hope of acceptance shatter once again? Everyone has the right to speak their truth, Claire mustered, her voice quivering but loud enough to cut through the tension. That doesn't mean it defines us. The crowd murmured. It was a flash of strength but not yet a flame. Jada could feel the battle for their heartbeat teetering on the edge. Would they choose connection despite fear, or turn back toward division? Stand with me, Claire declared, stepping up beside Jada, a silent gesture loud and clear. If this means fighting for each other, fighting for change, then I'm in. Her voice filled with resolve, and Jada felt an ember of hope reignite within her, yet the man's laughter rang out, harsh and mocking. You think this will change anything? We're a long way from equality. Show me one moment where hearts mattered. You'll see, the world is not as simple as you wish it to be. An icy shiver coursed through Jada as the crowd began to stir, uncertain of how to respond. Claire's hand shook slightly, and Jada took a deep breath, steeling herself. They couldn't give in to fear. Claire, she said softly, leaning close. We have to show them what we're made of. Just one act of courage can spark a revolution. The words wrapped around Claire like a comforting wrap, and she nodded, determination shining in her eyes. It was a moment of truth they both needed to embrace. The road to change began with them. But how? Claire murmured, glancing at the man who seemed to conjure an air of doubt among them. Jada looked back at the crowd, searching for the strength they had all professed just moments ago. Together, against anything trying to divide us, she said firmly, her heart pounding. Could their united voices drown out the sneer of negativity? And just then, as the crowd began to find their footing once more, Jada felt the flicker of hope from Claire. Would they stand tall, fight back, and not let fear shape their future? With that single thought poised on her heart, Jada gathered her strength, preparing to face the wave of challenges ahead. They had taken the first steps toward something beautiful. Now, it was time to fan those flames into a fire that could not be extinguished. But in that moment of unity, another shadow lurked in the background, growing larger. Who would stand against them next? What other obstacles awaited on their path toward change? A hush fell over the crowd, thick and heavy, as Jada felt her heart racing once more. The man's laughter hung in the air like smoke, unsettling and invasive. The uncertainty spiraled around them. Jada could see Claire gripping the mic tighter, her knuckles paling. The vibrant spark they had ignited felt fragile, hanging by a thread. Claire, she said in a firm whisper, we need to do this. We need to show them we won't be silenced. Claire nodded, taking a deep breath. Jada felt the energy shift again, a pulse of determination traveling through the group. She scanned the faces around her, many still stricken with doubt, but others were beginning to stand tall, shoulders back. It was like watching flowers bloom after a storm, hope surfacing against the backdrop of fear. Together. Someone shouted from the back, the voice slicing through the tension like a beacon. Together. Others echoed, a wave of support beginning to swell once again. Jada felt her own pulse quickening. This was it. Listen. She called, her voice breaking through the murmur. What he says doesn't define us. We've been pushed down for too long. We have the power to create change. We have to believe that unity can turn the tide. Dozens of eyes turned toward her, some hesitant, others searching for a glimmer of strength. The man rolled his eyes, but the passion in Jada's voice painted a picture of something more powerful than the darkness he radiated. Who are we? Claire stepped forward, her voice rising. Not just individuals, but a community. A family. Family. The crowd exclaimed, a spark igniting in their eyes once more. But just as hope began to solidify, the man stepped closer, his demeanor darkening. You think shouting will help you? Think again. History doesn't lie. One rally doesn't change years of hatred. You're fighting shadows. Those shadows can be dispelled. Claire shot back. What if we all took just one step forward? What if we started to hold each other accountable? Trust each other. Trust. In this broken world. He challenged, his voice low and menacing. What's it worth? You'll all wind up hurt. Jada felt the weight of his words, a reminder of all they had faced. But beneath that weight, she could also feel something else, resolve. This wasn't just about resisting the man's negativity. It was about standing firm in their rights. We have each other. Jada shouted, the fervor of her words dancing in the air. And that matters more than anything. Faces around her began to brighten, the initial doubt giving way to recognition, then understanding. They marched forward, arms linking, voices rising. Together. Together. The man stepped back, his earlier arrogance faltering slowly. Jada's heart swelled as she saw Claire shine with renewed confidence. The crowd formed a wall of passion and unity, a protective barrier that seemed to push the darkness back. But Jada couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the final confrontation. Dark shadows were always lurking, waiting for an opportunity to strike. A loud crash echoed through the space, sent chills through Jada's spine. Something was happening, with someone trying to split them apart. What was unfolding right before their eyes? The crowd went silent again, instant tension weaving through the air. Jada's breaths quickened. What could it be now? As chaos slowly stirred, she tightened her grip on Claire's hand. This wasn't just a rally, it was a pivotal moment. Would they hold strong, or would fear fracture them again? The night was still young. What confusion would spill from the shadows next? Who or what would emerge to challenge their bond? Jada's heart raced with fear as the crowd fell eerily silent. All eyes turned to the makeshift stage as the commotion echoed from the back. It sounded like something had collapsed. Was it just a chair, or something ominous hidden in the shadows? Stay close. Claire whispered sharply, her voice filled with urgency. Jada felt a cold wave wash over her. The unity they had built felt fragile, like glass teetering on the edge of shattering. Who's back there? Someone shouted from the crowd, desperation creeping into the query. Without waiting for a response, a group of about 5 more people emerged from the darkness, shoving their way through. Jada couldn't shake the unease as she caught sight of their scowls, their demeanor hostile. They didn't belong here, they weren't part of the community that had come together tonight. The leading figure, a tall man wearing a dark hoodie, pointed toward Claire and Jada, disdain etched on his face. What are you trying to do here? Speak to a crowd like you're heroes? You're wasting your breath. Jada felt her pulse pound in her ears. Was this a setup? A challenge? Or worse, an intimidation tactic? Claire's grip was firm, and Jada squeezed back, finding strength in their connection. Leave us alone. Claire shouted back, but her voice trembled slightly, betraying her fear. Leave? You think we're here to leave? We're here to remind you of your place. The man laughed, a chilling sound that echoed in the stillness. The crowd began to murmur, uncertainty creeping back in like a dark fog. Jada breathed deep, fighting for clarity amidst the chaos. We stand for each other. She called out, trying to penetrate the growing dread. You can't silence our voices. Not anymore. The man stepped forward, and his followers shifted closer, forming an intimidating line. And who are you to speak? Suddenly, the energy in the crowd shifted yet again, like a millstone slowly turning towards hope. We are family. Someone shouted again, and the chant resonated, rolling through the assembly. Family. Family. Unsure but desperate, Jada felt the words wash over her like a bomb. The chants grew louder, drowning out the negative energy. Claire was rallying like a general on a battlefield. We will not be divided. She added, fierceness radiating from her eyes. The man sneered, but the resolve in the crowd could not be ignored. The shadows that threatened to split them grew fainter against the brilliance of their unity. Just as it seemed the tide might turn, a sudden shove ignited chaos. The hooded figure lunged, and a scuffle broke out. Jada gasped, her heart squeezing painfully in her chest as she felt fear crash against her will. But every face around her held a spark of defiance. Together, they began to chant again, voices overlapping in a symphony against the noise. Together. Together. Then Jada noticed a figure breaking through the chaos, standing tall against the rear of the stage, someone she recognized. Claire. It, she shouted, but the writhing mass of bodies was all-consuming. What was unfolding before them? Would their unity be enough to shield them from this onslaught? Could the power of community stand strong against aggression? Jada's heart raced, torn between fear and unwavering hope, teetering on the edge of a defining moment. As the struggle continued, Jada caught a glimpse of Claire's determined face. But would they be able to rise from this challenge, or would fear tear them apart once more? The scuffle intensified as bodies collided like waves crashing onto the shore, the shouts and chants swirling into a whirlwind of emotion. Jada felt the heat of the moment rush over her, blending her fear with a growing urge to protect what they were building. Claire! She yelled again, trying to maneuver through the chaos. The crowd was a sea of faces, some filled with determination, while others were muddied with uncertainty. Then, without warning, the man in the hoodie grabbed Claire by the arm, yanking her toward him. Fear flashed in Claire's eyes, but she held her ground, her jaw set tight. Jada's heart dropped, and her breath caught in her throat. Let her go. Look at her. He shouted, addressing the crowd, his voice dripping with derision. You really think she can lead you? How can you trust her or any of them? The crowd hesitated, momentarily giving way to doubt. Jada stepped closer, her body tensing as she gathered every ounce of courage she had. No. Claire speaks for us all. We are not afraid. As her words rang out, something extraordinary happened. Like a fuse ignited, the energy in the crowd surged once more. People began stepping forward, eyes resolved, reclaiming the unity they thought had dimmed. We are family. The chant rose again, stronger this time, echoing with a vibrancy that dispelled the shadows looming over them. It was as if every voice combined created an unbreakable force. Jada felt hope surging through her veins, igniting her spirit. Claire turned to Jada, a spark of determination flashing between them. Together. She said, louder than the noise around them. They were stronger united, and with that strength, Jada and Claire glanced at one another, reaffirming their connection. They could do this. Suddenly, a window of opportunity opened. The hooded man stumbled back, eyes wide as he took in the sheer volume of opposition growing right before him. Jada recognized the shift. This was their moment. Without thinking, she lunged forward, forcing her way into the fray, heart pounding. Your fear doesn't define us. She shouted, her voice cutting through the confusion. Not anymore. As she reached Claire, they held hands tightly, creating a barrier against the aggression. The crowd was roaring now, a unified front pushing back against the darkness that threatened to consume them. Jada could see fear washing away like waves receding from the shore, but just then, a loud crash erupted as one of the group members collided with a nearby table, sending debris flying into the air. It startled everyone, sending a ripple of panic through the crowd. Jada squeezed Claire's hand tighter, feeling her heart race once again, that hope now entangled with worry. What is happening? Jada thought, terrified that the moment they had worked for could slip through their fingers. Stay strong. Claire urged, her voice rising above the chaos. Remember why we're here. But as the voices grew louder, so did the chaos. Was this unity truly unbreakable? The question lingered painfully in the air. Fear and courage danced dangerously close, pushing Jada to her limits as she watched the crowd teeter on the brink of chaos. With every ounce of strength she had left, Jada joined Claire in shouting, together. Together. But would those words be enough to hold them together in the face of the storm? And just as they prepared to fight back with everything they had, a chilling silence fell, the kind that promises a twist no one sees coming. Jada could feel a thick tension in the air, like before a summer storm. Her heart thundered, matching the cadence of the crowd's chant, but now, it was richness laced with uncertainty. The sudden silence felt oppressive. Every person around them seemed to be holding their breath, waiting for the next move. In that quiet moment, a shadow emerged from the group, pushing through the throngs like a predator through tall grass. Jada's instincts kicked in, adrenaline sharpening her senses. It was a man, not the one in the hoodie, but someone else, someone counting on the moment to unravel everything they had built. "Do you really think this is about Claire?" he shouted, his voice booming in the silence. "This is about control. About power. You think you can take back what was never yours?" His words sliced through Jada, a jagged reminder of why they had come here, why they had fought. The crowd began murmuring anxiously, as doubt seeped back in. Jada felt Claire's hand tremble in her grip, and it struck her this man thrived on their fear. If they stood wavering, the foundation of their newfound strength could crumble. Together. Jada shouted again, feeling every ounce of desperation flow through her voice. She stepped forward, pushing through the line of unity. "This is about us. About all of us. And we will not back down." She looked around, locking eyes with familiar faces. People she'd met, shared stories with, and those who had dared to believe in something bigger than themselves. Jada could see the flickering spark in their eyes, the resolute fire igniting. It was contagious. "Hold on!" Claire shouted, finding her voice once more, a beacon shining through the uncertainty. "We know who we are. We own our voices. We own our stories." The word sent a shockwave through the crowd, pushing back against doubt like a flood of light washing over darkness. One by one, people began to rise, echoing Claire and Jada's fervor. "We own our stories," they chanted, drowning out the discontent. The menacing figure visibly faltered, his bravado cracked by their unwavering determination. Jada could see the uncertainty reflecting back in his eyes, a shift that excited her. "Yes," she thought, sensing the tide turning. "This is it." But then came the sound of sirens, too close for comfort. The wail echoed through the evening air, blending with the beat of the chant but laden with worry. Instantly, some in the crowd exchanged glances, concern washing over their faces. Jada felt her stomach drop. What is going to happen when they arrive? Claire squeezed her hand even tighter, their connection enough to silence the noise momentarily. "We've come too far," she whispered, visibly shaken but unwavering. "We can't let them intimidate us now." Another crash followed, this time breaking the tension that hung between hope and despair. A barricade had fallen, someone hadn't held their ground. "Don't let fear push you back," Jada called, voice rising again against the swell of panic. "Dig in. Remember the power we hold." But as they rallied their voices, another wave of anxiety rolled through. The sirens were approaching rapidly now. Would they really stand together when the authorities arrived? Or would unity dissolve like mist before the sun? Jada's heart raced. What choice would they make in this moment of reckoning? As the blue lights began to flash, refracted through the gathering dusk, one thing became alarmingly clear: this moment was just the beginning. What would they do when the pressure mounted and the stakes were higher than ever before? Jada braced herself for the coming storm, unsure of how much stronger they would need to be to prevail. Would they continue to be unified when challenged, or would this be the test that broke them apart? The sirens wailed in the distance, slicing through the charged atmosphere like a knife. Jada swallowed hard, her heart pounding. She felt the collective anxiety ripple through the gathered crowd. Faces were filled with uncertainty, the hope they had built beginning to tremble on the edge of fear. Would they hold strong or allow panic to spiral? With her hand firmly clasped around Claire's, Jada took a deep breath and stepped forward, fighting against the rising wave of doubt. "This is our moment," she shouted, her voice cutting through the tension like a clarion call. "We've shown up. We've stood up to the darkness, and we're not backing down now." The crowd flickered with energy, hesitant at first, then igniting as her words sparked something deep within. One by one, voices began to rise, hesitant at first and then gaining volume. "We are family. We are family." It was a chant, a rhythm building from their shared belief. Claire jumped in, her voice strong and echoing, "Together, we are unstoppable. Together, we refuse to be silenced." The crowd roared back, the sound washing over Jada like a warm tide, lifting her spirits. As the blue lights flickered closer, Jada felt a stillness settle within her. This was it. This was where they would declare who they were and what they'd fight for. The police were coming, yes, but what message would they bring? A confrontation or a moment of reckoning? The leading officer stepped forward as the crowd began to waver, uncertainty spilling over. Jada took a step forward, leading with determination. The officer's expression was hard, yet there was a spark of curiosity in his eyes, perhaps even respect. Everyone remained calm. He called, his voice firm but not unkind. "What's happening here? This isn't just a rally, this is a community standing together. We're fighting for respect, for recognition, and for our rights." Jada spoke, her heart racing, but a lucidity guided her words. Behind her, the crowd held firm, their unity lending her strength. The officer paused, looking over the determined faces, picking out stories written in their expressions, an encouraging shift brewing in the atmosphere. "I hear you," he said slowly. "But we need to ensure everyone's safety. Safety includes us. It's about protecting and uplifting every voice here." Claire added, her heart beating fiercely in her chest. "We're showing that we won't let fear take hold of our narrative." The officer considered this, and in that moment, Jada saw his defenses soften. "All right," he said, lowering his tone a notch. "Let us make sure this remains peaceful. Unity is powerful, and I respect that." That flicker of agreement ignited an explosion of relief and cheers from the crowd. They weren't just fighting shadows anymore, they were seen. In this moment, Jada realized how courage can cut through noise and fear. They had rallied to show strength, and now they felt the shift, but as the crowd began to break into light-hearted shouts and laughter, Jada locked eyes with Claire, and a realization hit her. They had transformed something frail into an unshakable force. Around them, families came together, some holding hands, others hugging, laughter weaving through the air like a melody. The earlier fear evaporated in the newfound unity, a moment of elevation. "Look!" Mia exclaimed, pulling Jada toward the front. Jada's heart filled with pride as she saw families beginning to mingle, emotions intertwining in joyous reunion. A man stepped forward, another familiar face. It was the flight attendant from earlier. "I've come to say thank you," he said, eyes glistening. "You showed us the power of your voice today. You changed us." Jada smiled, feeling a swell of gratitude and fulfillment. She had walked into that airplane filled with doubt but was leaving with something extraordinary. The officer nodded toward the flight attendant, a symbol of the bridge they were forging together. "This is how we build the future," he stated, his voice steady and affirming. The sirens faded into the distance, and the joy of the moment washed over them like the first rays of sunshine. After a storm, families stood together, sharing stories, laughter echoing around them. As the crowd began to disperse, Jada felt an overwhelming surge of love for Mia, for Claire, for every heart that made the stand with her today. They had forged something that day, something real and promising. "Mama!" Mia tugged at her hand, her eyes sparkling. "Can we get that ice cream now?" Jada laughed, tears welling up as she embraced her daughter. "Absolutely. More than ever, let us celebrate." Together, they stepped into the sunshine, hope and love weaving around them like a tapestry. They had found their community, their place, and the fight had only just begun. Battered but unbroken, they were ready to take on whatever came next. This was more than a journey to reunite with Mia, this was the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with strength, connectivity, and the empowerment of every voice. Jada took a deep breath and smiled. They were free, together. Now it's time for you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that inspire change. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let others experience this journey of transformation. Comment below, sharing your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. And finally, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who truly need to see this transformation. You need to support the channel and show your love. Don't wait not even one more second to share.